Welcome to One Tired Teacher, Episode 71, Distance Learning. What are the trials and treasures? So today we're going to be talking about the trials and treasures of distance learning and some of the things that are causing teachers such frustration, and then also some of the beautiful parts that we've seen in the midst of this very crazy, chaotic time. I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Devery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Devery.
Hey, so we are in the midst of a very crazy time in our world, as we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. And I sadly don't see that is coming to an end anytime shortly. So we've kind of put some things that we were discussing before this pandemic break, and we were talking about standards-based learning and all those sorts of things that we are thinking about and always mulling over as educators. And we've kind of pushed all of that aside because we've had what has felt like, well, it is an emergency, and we've had to, make some shifts in our teaching, some major shifts. We've had to make some major shifts in our lifestyle and what's going on in our lives. So on top of that, on top of figuring out how to, hunker down and remain distant from others, and try to do the best possible things we can do to help prevent so many people from getting sick and lives lost. And so as we navigate those waters, we also, as educators, are now faced with this very thought and idea and real existence of distance learning and what that looks like and how we can manage that with our own families still at home, and maybe even our spouses at home working from home, and how that's going to look. And it's been very difficult. And some places are further along. They've been doing distance learning for several weeks, like they're in their second week. I talked to my sister-in-law, and they live in California. This was their second full week, and they were getting the hang of it in the second week. So that's something positive to think about. So some places have started and are already doing it. They're in full swing, and other states have been slower to begin. And Florida has been one of those. In my district, we gave our kids 2 weeks of spring break. I know a lot of states are doing that, and we spent the first week of spring break, thinking that maybe we wouldn't go back. And then towards the end of spring break, it was like, no, we're not for sure. And everybody needs to get to work like now. So, your spring break was interrupted, and that's the case for a lot of people. And so that happened. And then we are in full swing this week of trying to prepare and plan and get ready to deliver online teaching, online learning next week. Our kids start on Monday, and we are, jumping in. So there are some definite trials that teachers are experiencing, and there's some treasures as well. So that's what I want to talk about today. Excuse me. As you all know, I actually had been sick for, a couple of weeks. I didn't have a voice for a while, and it was a struggle, but I'm feeling better. Although every so often I have this nagging cough that comes and goes. So that's irritating and frustrating, but I'm also really thankful that I'm getting better, that I'm getting well. And so that's good. That's good. And I'm hoping that you all are staying healthy and staying well, and that you are, not fighting for breath, and that you are, actually doing okay, and that you're hanging in there, because this is, it's difficult. And I hope that, continuing the podcast, like sometimes I think, should I just stop? Should I just stop for a while and just take a break from it and give listeners a chance to to, take a break as well. And then I think, no, maybe not. Like maybe you still need to hear from me, and you still need someone to show up, and someone who understands and gets what you're going through. And so I'm hoping that is how you feel. And if you're not, if you're feeling like, I need a break for a bit, then that's okay. Then you can tune out for a little while, and I hope that you will come back. But if you are still here and you're still looking forward to listening to One Tired Teacher every week, then I'm going to show up as long as I can. So let's talk about let's start with the trials, because I think that there seems to be a lot of that. And then hopefully we'll end on a positive note. But, it's hard. It's hard. I'm just going to say that right now. And I think that some of the things, and I asked this question to teachers, to a variety of teachers from all different perspectives, because I was just curious to know what they were thinking. I know what I'm thinking, and I know how there are some things, like from my perspective as like almost like a support person, as a student support specialist. And I don't have students right now to support. Like I've been supporting teachers, and which is, I love supporting teachers. So that's definitely not something that's difficult. I mean, I've been supporting teachers for the last 20 years, and I've kind of missed like really focusing on teachers. So that part of it has actually been a good thing. But, as a support person, I have seen many things that have basically outraged me and frustrated me. And I have been there with teachers in the trenches, and they are, they're struggling, they're upset, they're frustrated. So let's talk about some of those things. So one of the first things that people mentioned, and that I concur, is the inconsistency within districts. Like, you'll talk to your friends that are in different districts, and everything is so different. And like some districts are giving their teachers plans and lessons, and the teacher is more like the facilitator of the online learning, and which can be a good and a bad thing. I think for some people, they feel like they need some clear directions and some specific ideas, and this is all so new to them. They feel very alone and overwhelmed, extremely overwhelmed. And so I feel like for some people, they really need that structure, and they need that support from their district, from their curriculum specialists, from their IT people, from the people that are supposed to be helping integrate technology all the time, and not just when we're in the middle of a crisis. And so I think that can be really difficult when you're not actually getting that from your district. I know there are some districts that have a plan in place, a real plan with lessons and support, and they have been, outstanding from what I've heard. We can't really say the same from where I'm coming from. And I think that's upsetting. But I know that on the other hand, some teachers don't want that autonomy taken away. Like they want to be able to create their lessons and their plan for their students. Obviously it's standards aligned and standards based. And I know for me that I've always wanted to know, okay, these are the standards. These are the basic things that I need to cover for the quarter, and this is what the year looks like. But I want to do and create my own things. That's why one of the reasons I have a store on TPT is because I've always made my own things, and I like making my own things. Not everybody likes to do that. I also I enjoy it. I think that's a strength for me, and so that is something I want to do. I never wanted to be told I had to do page 252 at the same time that somebody else had to do page 252 in the math book. Like that kind of stuff actually irritated me. So I wouldn't want that specific, you must do this, everyone must do this at this time. I wouldn't want that. But I really understand why we would need that at this time. And I understand that some people are drowning. And what I think would be a perfect scenario is to see a combination. I would like for it to be offered. I'd like for the structure and the plans to be offered for those that want it or need it, or maybe even because I'm in elementary school, maybe even like I know if this were me and I were still in the classroom, I might want that for my science and social studies plans. I might not want to recreate. I definitely wouldn't want that for science because I like to create that, and I have a lot of science things. But let's just say social studies. I might want that specific direction so that I don't have to make everything in the world, and that I can really focus on reading and writing and math. Like that might be what I would want to do. And for me, it would be science. I might even want the math part done for me. So I think it would be nice to have that. And I especially think it would be good for teachers that need that. And then I would like that to be an option. I'd like for them to allow teachers to still have the autonomy to create their own if they prefer. So I think that would be the perfect scenario in my opinion. I know that like I said, some districts are handing out these plans and they're making it really easy, and they're using platforms that are conducive to online learning, and my district is doing that. We are using Schoology, which I love Schoology. I actually used Schoology in my classroom in 2011 all the way to 2016. My district didn't even know what Schoology was. They thought it was Schoology. And and I was like, I loved it. I thought it was great. It was such an experience, and my second graders were doing it. So they were completely capable. And honestly, if I were in the classroom right now and I was still doing that, like my kids would be fine. They wouldn't even skip a beat, because we did so much online within the classroom, and we did a lot of flipped classroom things, and it was just really powerful. And but I also had the controls to do it. I was the administrator, I was the creator of the account, so my hands weren't tied. And in this case, we will have really good platforms like that, but we'll tie the teacher's hands. We'll take away some of the access that they have, so they can't do some of the really cool things. And that's very frustrating. It limits teachers. And when we limit teachers that way, it's telling them we don't trust them. We're afraid they're going to mess something up, or they're not going to do it the way somebody thinks they should do it. And I think that's really hard to swallow, especially at a time like this. And it's upsetting. So I know that, teachers feel like their hands are tied with things like, and then like my district is not allowing us to use Google, which who doesn't use Google? Who says Google is not allowed, or Google products are not allowed? That makes zero sense to me. And it makes things so hard, because there are thousands of Google resources out there created by brilliant people, and they will save teachers so much time, and it's engaging, and they're meaningful, and they're standards based. And teachers that are not allowed to use Google, which still blows my mind, don't have access to these things. And it's infuriating, actually. It's insulting, and it makes your job very hard. And then like we have another thing where we're not able to use Zoom, and the argument is that it's not protecting the digital rights of the student. And I think that's really frustrating as well, especially when you visit the site of Zoom and you see the different certifications that they have, and they do address that particular law, and they actually have Zoom for education as well. And it really gives you the ability, when we're in this time when kids need to see the teacher and the teacher needs to see the kids, like we still have to make these connections with children in order to help them feel like there's a sense of normalcy, and that they have the ability to connect with others. Like this is a time where we need to connect more than ever. When we're isolating ourselves and we're spending time alone in our house, and we've got kids that some kids' parents are still trying to go to work, and they're home by themselves. They need an adult connection, and they need to see each other. And I just don't understand when we limit things like that, and we make things so difficult, and that is infuriating. And then we say that other things work and they don't really work, or it's glitchy, or it's just not as smooth. And again, your hands are tied. I had a primary teacher that responded to this question of what's making distance learning difficult, and this is what she said. This is her exact quote. I got excited about learning and researching and putting it all together. The fact that the district is stopping me from delivering something really great, which is above and beyond what they have to offer, to my students is the worst part. Now it seems I have no other choice but to assign meaningless and boring work from the garbage curriculum we have. Wow. And it's so true. It's so true. It's like, it's almost pushing you to do some of the things that you know in your heart are not the best things for kids. Let me just assign iReady to kids over and over again. And if you're a fan of iReady, I don't mean to insult you, but it's just something that I don't believe in and think is a very frustrating process. And I think that teachers can do a better job. I just do. I feel like we can do a better job than assigning them programs and having a computer teach them. I think the human element, the human contact that we have with students and teachers, I think that is more beneficial. And it's upsetting when we are forced to use things like that because your hands are tied in other areas, and it's a hard pill to swallow, especially for teachers that like to have autonomy. So another issue that some teachers have that is, and it's not to be able to, like some teacher, like another thing that teachers said about like what was a thing that was frustrating them or was making this so difficult. And they said not being able to show the kids how to use things in advance, such as, because we've focused on programs like iReady, we haven't focused on meaningful technology integration. And so teachers and students are not familiar. They're unfamiliar with some of these things that we could be using that would actually, be meaningful, would actually enhance a lesson and not replace a lesson, but actually enhance it, which using technology should enhance what we're doing and not just be a replacement, a babysitter, basically, a replacement teacher or a replacement babysitter. And if we were really doing true, meaningful technology integration, this would not feel like such an emergency. Kids would know how to use these programs. As I said, like my students, they would have already known what to do. We wouldn't have skipped a beat. They were already using, we were already having book discussions on Schoolaging. We were already watching meaningful videos from YouTube or even Discovery Education, where they were watching like snippets of things that we were talking about in science, and then we were having discussions on that. They were already doing that in the classroom and outside of the classroom, so that it wouldn't have been an emergency to figure out how to get them all online and how to communicate with them, as it is right now, because we're not doing those things. And we've actually had this platform for several years in our district. It arrived 3 years ago, and in 2017, and we have not learned how to properly integrate it. And I think that's disheartening. So that's a frustration for teachers. Like now they feel like they're scrambling, and they said goodbye to their students at spring break, and they didn't know that they wouldn't see them again. And, for maybe not at all. And so they were unable to prepare them for what this is going to look like. So trying to help kids navigate platforms that they have not been familiar with is difficult. And I know that's not where every district is. I know that there are districts out there and states out there where your kids already know how to get onto your platform, whether you're using, Canvas, or you're using Edmodo, or you're using Google Classroom, which would be amazing. Or I know Apple has a new version that's been piloted for, I spoke about that when I talked to a teacher from, I feel like it was Arkansas, but now I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. I'm going to link to that episode because it was so good. Oh, they were integrating technology in such a brilliant way. This is probably not an emergency to them. They're probably just not even missing a beat. And I think that's amazing. So you may not be in that boat. That might not be a frustration that you have to experience. Thank goodness. And I really hope that a lot of people aren't in this boat. A quote from a high school teacher, a high school art teacher. She says, not having time to show the kids, how to use it ahead of time and ease their stress about it. Because even high school students, when they haven't been using things, are, stressed. A lot of our high school kids, I will say, have been exposed to our platform of Schoology, and that's a really good thing. Like, that's great that they already know how to do it. Like, some of their teachers are using that, and that's refreshing, at least to know that some of our older kids are using it. But it can be used with younger kids as well. And maybe it's the elementary school teachers that are finding the most difficulty with that. But I think that's where we put our focus then. I think as a school district in the technology department, we put out surveys and we find out what teachers know and what they don't know. And we look and we analyze what needs our focus. Where do we need to focus our professional development in order to help to help these people get on the same page. Like, how do we do that? Like, that should be a priority, in my opinion. All right, let's focus on some other parts. Some more things that were found difficult was the lack of support from the district. They seem to be focusing on accountability and making sure teachers are teaching 7.5 hours and providing 5 hours of online instruction for elementary and up to 7 or even 8 hours for middle school and high school students, which personally feels insane to me. Like, that is such a massive amount of time to expect our families to be online. Like, I don't understand that. And that just, because when we think about our regular schedule and what it really looks like in a classroom, if we are boiling it down to 5 hours, we're in that 5 hours, we still have to take into account lunch and recess and specials and transitions and having to stop and, get kids together, and moments where we take, a few moments to like breathe, and where we talk about like, mindfulness or those kinds of things that we do in our classroom, or we're doing team builders or class builders or things that are building community. Like, all of that takes up time in the classroom. It's not 5 hours straight of just work. And especially when you're at a distance, like, kids can get some of those things done faster than they can in the classroom because of the distractions that occur. And that's just a fact of life. And as a student support specialist, called constantly to get kids out for behavior, which is a whole nother story, I see how much interruptions occur. So that 5 hours of instruction could probably be boiled down to probably 2 or 3 hours. And I would say at the most 3 hours. So I think having the expectation that we come up with 5 hours of instruction is absolutely outrageous. And if we listen to other countries that have gone before us, unfortunately, in this pandemic, they say they're trying to give us, offer us information to learn from their mistakes. And they've said that less is more. And what kind of expectation do we have on these families when they're working from home and they may not have devices for every single person in the house, and we're working from home and we want them to have their children online for 5 hours or have enough of printed off things to do that they can stay busy for that amount of time? And when we're in the middle of a crisis, like, I just think we're not thinking about the whole child or the whole person or families. And so I think that is something that we're just ignoring. We're ignoring that, and we're not taking that into account, and we're not considering what families are going through, and people are losing their jobs, and people are sick, and people are having, to work themselves. I think we just need to be more flexible. We need to be flexible in this time period. Like, we need to show that we are there for them and offer them instruction. And I think education can still continue and learning can still continue, but we don't have to be so rigid, and we need to have flexibility. Maybe we're providing weekly assignments and we're letting families work on their own schedule so that they can figure out who's going to be on the computer at what time. And I think we should be allowing teachers and support staff to have a flexible schedule without this ridiculous expectation that we all work the same hours. We've been told that we need to be available from 8 to 3:45, and that's it. Those are our hours. And if somebody needs you at 6 o'clock at night, of course you can do that. But I think that's so inconsiderate. Like, at 6 o'clock at night, I have another job, or I have my family to take care of. And I can't do my job for 12 hours a day and have to still be available from 8 to 3:45. Why can't we be a little more flexible with that? I will give you the time. You don't have to worry about that. But then I would appreciate not being nickel and dimed with my time. Like, maybe I work from 12 to 7:30. Maybe I have a different schedule than somebody else does, so that I can be available in the evening. And even for me as a support staff, helping teachers, like, maybe my schedule looks different. Maybe I work on Saturday and Sunday, and then I don't work on Monday and Tuesday, or Wednesday and Thursday, or something like that, so that I can be available to staff when they need me, and not in the middle of the time that they're supposed to be teaching for 7 hours or 5 hours or whatever. So I think that would be so much more realistic. And we've got this we just have such this lack of trust with one another. Like I have to keep this insane log of what I'm doing because, people don't, won't believe that I'm actually working. And I mean, I'm still going to meet with kids. I still have the plan to meet with kids and actually have already. And I'm on Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call with teachers, offering them technical support. And so way beyond my time, my hours. So I think like let's give people the benefit of the doubt in this situation. You're going to have some people that take advantage, but very few. Most teachers don't take advantage of that kind of stuff. And the amount of time that they put into their job goes far beyond what they're paid for anyway. So let's be understanding at this time. That just so frustrates me so much. Okay, I'll get off that. So I think that is one thing that makes it difficult. And then speaking of families and taking into consideration, I got a quote from an intermediate teacher when I asked what was the hardest thing about distance learning. And she says, I would say worrying about my students. I worry about both their mental health and their physical health as well. And something that worries me from an academic standpoint is being able to engage them. So that's what they worry about. And they worry about like the whole child and what it means to them and what it looks like for them being in the house all day long, and what they must be thinking. And how do you engage them from a distance? How do you get them excited to come back, especially in families where they won't encourage their kids to continue to learn online because sometimes they don't encourage their kids to learn regularly. So what do we do in that situation? How do we motivate and entice them to get to want to come on and join us? Like, how do we do that? Another response that I got from an ESD teacher, she said, holy cow, that's a really hard question. I don't know how to choose what's been the worst. The pressure of wanting to follow the law for ESD kids so that I don't put myself or my school at risk for being non-compliant. The pressure to meet the needs of kids with learning difficulties without being able to be right there with them. The technology and the fact that we are being expected to teach kids but being told we have a million restrictions on how we do it. The fact that the people asking us to provide 5 hours of instruction for kids aren't talking to parents that have 3 kids, 1 computer, 1 works full-time and can't find childcare. The priorities are wrong right now. We should be feeding people, making sure they have access to books, and helping families that need to go to work find safe places for their kids to be. And mental health should be a priority for all of us. Our kids and ourselves and our families, we are facing a virus that kills people, and we are focusing on the fact that we need to provide 5 hours of instruction so that we are teaching the standards. Come on, people. And I want to stand up and give this person a standing ovation because they're absolutely right. We are focusing on the wrong things. So there are definitely some challenges for teachers and families and support staff. And yes, even the district. The sad part is there's such a disconnect from the top down that nobody has patience or time to understand the perspective of the other. I know that's true for me. I feel outraged at my district. And it's frustrating and upsetting, and I don't understand so many things. But I don't know what they're facing. I know that they're getting constant calls of families that are saying that they can't even do the work because they just got laid off and they just can't. This can't even be their focus. So I understand that they are also struggling and that it's hard for them as well. And what they're getting from the top, I have no idea. But I feel tricked. I kind of feel like they acted like they were going to provide this great support, and then they just told us to use Schoology and do the work all of it by ourselves. And they told us that, then they told us this over spring break. And obviously they couldn't control the timing, but the expectations of doing the work over spring break would have been okay with me if they weren't going to then nickel and dime me on my time. And then they were going to say, you must be available from this time to this time. How about like giving some time back that you took away? And that's the same thing that goes back to what I'm saying about like if I'm working at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, or I'm working on a Saturday and Sunday and I'm going over with the teacher how to upload lessons or how to create materials inside of our platform, then how about you give me some of my time back? Like how about we do that for one another because we care. How I would like to see that. And we're not. that's hard. And how about you trust me to do that, and I'll give you even more, but you don't ask me to give up my unpaid time to meet crazy expectations, and then again you nickel and dime my time. It's just frustrating. And also, don't tie my hands and take away tools that work for me, and tell our families that we will provide computers for them, and then from this imaginary stockpile of computers and devices. But then in the middle of the week, they tell schools that the computers have to be updated and that we have to send our own computers home, and we're taking them out of the classroom. And we have people working from 10:30 to 11 o'clock at night, and we are telling them to sign out at 5:30 so we don't have to pay them overtime. And I just think that this is wrong on so many levels, and I don't even know how these devices will be returned. And I don't think that even matters at this point, because I think it's important for all kids to have access. But I think, again, it just goes back to like caring about your employees, because you're also putting people at risk. You're telling them to come in and be in groups of people and pass out whatever to families, and it's putting people at risk. So I'm going to share one more perspective, and that is because I think this is just so powerful. So this is what this person said. This is actually a former teacher who taught for many, many years. And she says she's still part of education. So she said the hard part is teachers came together and they worked through all these things in a week's time, and but they did it without the budgets, the training, or the materials. And this is a tremendous amount of stress on teachers and students. It has also highlighted real divides between higher poverty schools and more wealthy schools. Schools that are one-to-one or have populations who have computers at home have a huge advantage. Kids without technology or limited access to technology are at a huge disadvantage. Can you imagine trying to do school using just a smartphone? And the other worst thing is the tremendous stress and expectations placed on teachers to completely change instructional delivery in a week, especially elementary. Often teachers were not provided with basic items, a computer with a camera, to deliver instruction. They are using their own phones, computers, equipment, etc. to get the job done. That is a lot. So those are some of the frustrating things that I think that we're facing. So what about you? Is there things that are frustrating you? Did I touch on it? Did I say it? Did you hear it? There may be even more things that are making this difficult. So I'd like to hear from you. I'd like, share, comment on my website, TrinaDevery.teachingandlearning.com, One Tired Teacher. This episode is episode 71. It has its own specific page. There is a comment feature. Leave a comment. Let me know. Share with me find me on Instagram, Trina Devery TNL. You can also find me on Facebook, Trina Devery Teaching and Learning. And let me know. Share with me like what your frustrations are and how it's been difficult for you. And like maybe you even might say like, we often don't get credit as teachers. Very, very often we don't get credit as teachers. And this is kind of one of those times. And, it's kind of eye-opening for parents to see what it's like to help educate their own child. And they're like, whoa, and it's crazy. And, I think this should be the time that we're really thanking our teachers. And our teachers haven't even stopped working. They're working like crazy. Like it feels like the beginning of the year without any time in between. And it's a lot. And I think that teachers need to be recognized for their can-do, above and beyond attitude, where they always figure it out, and their resilience and their determination. And it's like, congratulations on being so determined to make this work, because it's always about the kids. And that's what people hold over us, but it's also what we hold in our heart. And it is always about the kids, and we continue to keep trying. So reach out and let me know what you're thinking. Okay. So those are the difficulties. And that was a long time to talk about the difficulties. So let's focus on some of the positives. Let's focus on what has been the good thing about this distance learning opportunity, because there really are some. There are some good things. And so I would love for you to share some of your good things too. But because I think that I really, like for me, on the first two days back to school, I was in charge of providing training on Schoology because I had experience. I knew how to help. I knew what to do. So I had groups of people in, no more than 10 in a room, all spread out. I also provided it online for people that were at home so they could do distance learning. So I had it going on online and at home at the same time, multiple sessions for days. And people were like, they thanked me a lot. And sometimes I feel like at my school, like I'm I constantly feel like I'm letting teachers down because my focus has been so much on building these relationships with kids and trying to see and understand them. And that's sometimes it's frustrating to teachers if I'm not there angry and mad and ripping the kid out of the classroom because they, are throwing things across the room. So in this case, I finally felt like I was helping the teacher and people were really grateful. And it was like it was a really good experience for me. It was the things that it was just using the skills and that I have and using them in a positive way and being able to do what I love, which is professional development and it is helping teachers and supporting teachers and providing information and rooting them on. And I felt like I got to do that. So for me, it was a really positive experience. And I have never had so many people at this school. I have in my old schools, of course, but not in this, or old school, I should say, but not in this school. And so that felt good to me. It felt really good. Some more positive thing I felt rejuvenated and I have a passion for technology integration and I got my master's in 2011 from Full Sail University, which is more of a media digital, kind of music, arts kind of school. And it's an incredible school. And there's a lot of people that won Grammys from it and Academy Awards. And it had one education program. I don't even think they have this anymore. And it was technology and media design. And it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. And I was on fire when I graduated and during the whole entire thing. It was like one of the best experiences of my life. And I was ready to integrate like crazy. And I had one-to-one iPads. I wrote a grant. I got one-to-one iPads and I loved it. And although I got really frustrated with the district because they kept tying my hands and changing things, and it was really upsetting. I couldn't do the things that I learned and loved. And I won't get back on the negative, but I will say that I think that we need this. We need to integrate technology. This is the 21st century and kids are digital natives and this is going to be their world and we need to be doing this in a meaningful way. And so the fact that we have to, or forced to, I'm actually happy. I'm happy about that. Not that we have to put people through this kind of stress. Absolutely not that. But I'm happy that we are integrating technology. So here are some of the comments that teachers said about the things that are positive. Some people said, I am learning something new, and that was a positive. Someone said, I'm learning technology. And this is a pre-K teacher who didn't know how to download a document or even to refresh their a website. And before we started this, so she is finally feeling like she has some technical skills. So that is a huge, huge win. And I think that is adorable. So that's a positive. A second grade teacher says, I am super proud of my team. They really stepped it up, tried something new. We pulled together to problem solve and we busted our butts. And I love that. And I know that they Zoomed and collaborated and they pounded out materials, and it was amazing to witness. And I got to be a part of it, and it was truly incredible. Another one said, a fourth grade teacher said, so far last night, which I'll tell you what that means in a second. Also, I was able to speak with some of my kids on the phone. They sounded so small. Yeah. So they got to connect with their students from home. And that sometimes is kind of cool and exciting. But the thing that she was talking about that we did last night, which is another really positive thing during this, is that we did a teacher train, like a STEAM train. And which you might have seen some of these on Facebook because people have been doing them. And we, decked out our cars and rode on them and had signs hanging off, and we did a train. We were all very conscious of social distancing. We did not get close to each other. People that had been together in the same space, they stayed in the same space. Like maybe they had, some people in their car. I was in my car by myself. I was doing a really good job of social distancing, and we all had the longest line of cars, and we went through the neighborhoods of our school, and we honked and we waved and we yelled, and the kids were out there with signs and people were clapping, and it was awesome. It was very emotional. I cried when the first group of kids I saw, I started crying because I got to do a Zoom call with my kids, with some kids, actually not even with my kids, I added every kid in the school to my course, and so it was on their tiles. We opened it up and they can meet with Miss Devery, and so they get on, and it's 2 kids that I never talk to because they are always doing the right thing and making good choices. And which is, sometimes I want to see all the kids, and I will have kids say to me, "Can't you take me?" And they're like, "I'll be bad," which I'm like, no, I don't want you to be bad. Like, I want to see you anyway. And so that has been a really special thing. Like, I get to see all the kids, and these two sweet girls from 5th grade came on the live class or live call, and we just talked about things that they've been doing. We talked about things that they're thinking, and it was so fun. And then one of them asked me if I was going to be at the parade, and I said yes. And then I saw her, and she recognized, like she saw it was me, and she got all excited and waved really big, and my heart was like bursting. And so that was such a beautiful experience, and I loved it. And I loved how responsible my school was with the social distancing, and how also we got to see our kids, and it just meant a lot. So that was a really positive thing. And it was, late. It was 5:30 they went on till like way past 7:30. I ended up having to leave the train at 7 because my daughter turned 20 yesterday. Whoa, insane. Oh my goodness. And so I didn't get to go to the full thing, but I did an hour and a half of it, and it was amazing. Another positive was that Zoom call with my kids. Like, that was incredible. I love that. Another thing that I do enjoy seeing is so many families together, spending time together. And I love to see so many people outside. And it's, this whole thing, it has forced us to slow down a little bit. Maybe not educators. Definitely not educators at this time. But it's forced us as a whole world to slow down. And I think that's really huge. And I think there can be joy in the chaos. I have a lot of faith, and I don't talk about that on this podcast, but I do. And I listen to a church that's based in LA. Actually, they have I think 9 different remote campuses on all different areas. And it's called Mosaic, and Erwin McManus is the pastor. And I just love him. I adore him. He's excellent. And he talks about joy in the chaos. And it's incredible. And I'm going to link to it in case you're interested, because right now you might need a little bit of that. Just amazing. Anyway, the other one that I want to share is this person said, the best thing of all is that at once it shows how American teachers and students can turn on a dime and revolutionize education delivery in a week. Wow. We've adapted so quickly, so that is the best. Teachers have come together and worked to make creative solutions. And that really is true. That's really amazing. And it's really a plus of how many people come together so quickly, like educational websites, internet providers, and they offer help to families and schools. One last thing. I love seeing so many people coming together and giving to one another. And there is a lot of free stuff being shared and ideas among teachers and educators and parents. And I think this is really special because pulling together, being resilient, working hard, figuring it out, that's what teachers do. And I love that. And there's a lot of teacher authors that are working around the clock, me included, to provide really excellent products for you to use in your online classrooms. And this is a massive time saver, and it can really, save some people from feeling like they're going insane. I have a special category in my store called distance learning, and you can find that's on TPT, Trina Debery Teaching and Learning on TPT. I have tons of science passages with questions, and they also have a experiment with limited materials that they may have at home, and you can use these digitally. And I have some little readers and standards-based assessments and some social studies stuff and so much more. So if you are in need of any of those kind of materials, I have them in my store. Visit me at Trina Debery Teaching and Learning on TPT, and I will link to that in the show notes. And I also have a lot of freebies on trinadeberyteachingandlearning.com and in the Learn at Home section. I have 8 days of read alouds and some stuff to go with that, some free stuff, and then some stuff that's at a very reasonable price. I have some Google tutorials on that page as well. The read alouds are if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find them all. You can stop by my homepage, trinadeberyteachingandlearning.com, and grab my free standards-based exit tickets for podcasts, because I really think podcasts are such a great way for kids to learn content and practice their listening comprehension. In fact, I think podcasting is really the thing to do right now. I have a podcasting in the classroom course for teachers that may be relevant for how to use podcasts virtually, and it's currently on sale because I really wanted to support you guys at this time. So you can find that at Trina Debery Teaching and Learning podcasting.com, podcasting school for teachers. And I also have a very technical podcasting course that goes into more detail if you wanted to create your own podcast. And I go step by step on planning all the way to launching, how to get on Apple and Google and all those things. And it's a little more expensive, but I have it on sale right now. It's a $75 savings. Actually, in the total, you're saving $122 on the total price. So this is on sale until the 10th of April. I've expanded this sale until April 10th, which is Good Friday. So I think that's a good day. And it's called Podcasting Academy for Teacherpreneurs. And it can be found on my website. So if you want to find that, it's trinadeberyteachingandlearning.com. Join Podcasting Academy for Teacherpreneurs. And I'll link to all of that. So if you're thinking about that, then, one way or the other, you have some choices. So what is your joy in the chaos? I'd love to hear that as well. So find me on Instagram, Trina Debery, TNL, and let me know. Or find me on Facebook, Trina Debery Teaching and Learning on Facebook. Or write that in the comments. I'd love to see the positives as well, because there's definitely some positives in this. And we are all in this together. And that can feel good sometimes. So this one tired teacher has just shared a lot with you in a long time. I hope that this gets you through maybe one of those times where you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you need to vent, and then you need to think of the positive. That's my kind of rule for myself. And it used to be for my team too. I would say I'd give my team 2 weeks to complain and be upset and be mad and kind of blame the team below us for feeling like they, didn't prepare them, which of course they always did, but we have the summer slide and that always feels massive. But, you have those moments. So we had 2 weeks to do that. And then it was like, that's it. We can no longer talk about that. I don't want to hear any more about that. We're moving on. We're taking what we have and we're going forward. So that's kind of how this episode is. It's like my complain, but now we got to move forward and we got to persevere and we got to get through this and we got to take action, because that's what we do. That's what teachers do. That's what you do. Thank you for all that you do, because you do so much and it should be appreciated. So from one tired teacher to another, sweet dreams and sleep tight.